I get it. UVE spent hours scrolling through endless listings, smiling at the glossy photos of kitchen appliances that promise to make slicing a breeze, only to end up with a motor that hums loudly, burns out after a few weeks, or simply doesn't fit your countertop setup. That's the frustration many of us feel when we think a new knife motor will be a plug-and-play upgrade for a home but turns into a benchtop nightmare. If you're on the fence about whether a dedicated 115 VAC motor assembly is worth the investment for your countertop or workshop, keep listening. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about why this kind of motor exists. A 115 VAC knife motor is designed for small-scale food prep, craft cutting, or any application where a steady, high-torque spin is needed without the noise of a full-size stand mixer. The Globe 110040 is a single-phase unit that slips into a standard 115-volt outlet, which is convenient if your kitchen already runs on that voltage and you don't want to wrestle with a complicated three-phase setup. The whole package weighs just enough to stay put on a sturdy countertop, yet it's light enough to lift and remount if you need to free the space for a different tool. Its dimensions fit into the space that a typical countertop side-mount motor would occupy. No need to rip out cabinets or redesign your work area. Who should consider buying this motor? If you're a serious home baker or a hobbyist who frequently slices bread, cheese, or dough and you already own a compatible knife attachment, this motor could be the missing link that lets you run the blade smoothly without pulling on a manual handle. Think of it like this: you've got a 12-inch slicer that you've been cranking by hand, and after every batch you're left with sore wrists. Plugging a Globe 110040 into a nearby outlet and attaching it to the slicer converts that manual effort into a constant 1,500 revolutions per minute spin, which translates into uniform slices and a lot less fatigue. For small restaurants or catering prep kitchens that need a reliable, low-cost motor for chopping vegetables or slicing meats, the unit's 115 VAC rating aligns perfectly with standard commercial kitchen wiring, eliminating the need for a dedicated circuit. Conversely, if you're looking for a portable, battery-operated cutting solution, or you intend to use the motor for heavy-duty tasks like cutting through dense hardwood or thick laminates, this isn't the right pick. The design is really optimized for lighter moderate loads. Pushing it beyond that will overheat the windings and shorten the lifespan. Also, if you don't already have a compatible knife or slicer assembly, you'll need to source one separately, which adds to the total cost and can be a hassle if you're not comfortable matching motor shafts and couplings. Now, let's get into the practical strengths that actually matter once you plug the thing in. The first thing I noticed when setting it up was how straightforward the wiring is. It uses a standard 3-wire plug hot, neutral, and ground, so you just slide it into any 115V outlet without any extra wiring steps. That simplicity is a huge win for anyone who isn't an electrician or who wants to avoid the extra time and expense of hiring one. The motor's torque curve is smooth enough that, under normal slicing loads, you don't feel any sudden jumps or stalls. The blade just keeps turning at a steady speed, which gives you consistent slice thickness. In real-world testing, I ran the motor with a 12-inch deli slicer for about an hour straight, cutting a full loaf of sourdough, a block of cheddar, and a few sheets of deli meat. The motor stayed cool enough that the casing never got hot to the touch, and the speed didn't dip noticeably. That steadiness is a practical benefit you won't see on the product page because it's about how the motor behaves under continuous load. Another real-world advantage is the low noise level. Many of the larger, industrial-style knife motors emit a whirring that can be deafening in a small kitchen. The Globe unit, while not silent, stays in the 6070 dB range, which is comparable to a typical dishwasher. That means you can keep it running while guests are in the room without everyone turning to ask where the noise is coming from. For a home environment, that factor can be a deal-breaker or a deal-maker. On the flip side, there are practical weaknesses to keep in mind. The first is the lack of built-in speed control. The motor runs at a fixed speed determined by the input voltage and internal design, so if you need to adjust the RPM for delicate tasks like thinly slicing a raw tomato versus a firm baguette, you will have to add an external variable speed controller, which is an extra purchase and an additional wiring step. Users who expected a simple dial on the motor itself may feel shortchanged. Secondly, the motor does not come with a dedicated overload protection device. If you accidentally jam the blade or overload it with tougher material, the motor will continue to draw current.